رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we will continue discussing the 17th word, a supplication which occurred to me in Persian. Let's summarize what we discussed so far.
The 17th word was about these verses. That which is on earth we have made as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. Verily, what is on earth we shall make but as dust and dry soil. And the other verse was, what is the life of this world but play and amusement? And the first part of the 17th word, actually the 17th word is consisting of several parts. The first part was about the question, okay, everything is beautiful in life, and the Creator is telling us that He is all merciful. But how about death? What is merciful about the death itself? It just sweeps away everything as if putting things into non-existence. What sort of a mercy is there? And then, as an answer to this question, he was providing some aspects of mercy in the death, which we discussed for, 3 weeks. And so he was just, I guess it's going to be too much of a detail to go to answers, but this was the general motion of the first part. Then the second major part was what we were discussing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. This one is a supplication which occurred to me in Persian. And this one was more focused on the free will. So the main premise in this part was, so the author was troubled and he was trying to find a cure for his troubles. And the very initial sentence says, I cast an eye over the six aspects, meaning that to the past, to the future, to the present moment, to my, imagination, what I expect from tomorrow, whatever, or end of my life, fruit of my life. So he was looking at everything that might give him some sort of a solace, but he couldn't find anything. And at the end he says, alas, I could find no cure for them, and I understood it was being said to me, are your ills not sufficient as cure for you? And the rest of the text was a kind of an explanation for this sentence, which implies you should be seeking, actually the troubles that you are afflicted with, they are themselves cures for you. They are given you for being a cure because they tell you something. If you get the message out of this ills, these problems, then you're going to solve your problems. They are not randomly there. These problems are not randomly given to you. And I'm going to summarize it with my own words. The author was looking at those 6 aspects and eventually he said that yesterday is gone. Tomorrow so yesterday he says it's the grave of my father. Tomorrow I am seeing it as my grave because this is where I'm going to. So it's total darkness. Present moment, well, it just passes by very quickly. I enjoy something momentarily, but it just disappears immediately. So it doesn't really solve my problems in this life. He was thinking about end of my life. What is it that I'm going to leave behind me? He says, well, it doesn't solve my problem once I die. It only becomes a corpse that I'm going to leave behind. So, and eventually he comes to the conclusion that the only thing that I have in my hand apparently is my free will. But this free will is also problematic because it doesn't create anything. You just choose something. Beyond this choice, you don't have anything. So he says, what am I going to do with this then? Because as if I am stuck. I am totally stuck. I am in need of so many things. The only thing I have is a free will, which doesn't do much. So eventually now he comes to the realization also that on top of this free will being this much useless, if you like, on the other hand, I have countless needs, countless desires. Whatever I think of, I imagine of, it becomes my need. And the example that we were talking about last time was yeah, you look at the images of, let's say, International Space Station in the Instagram, and you say, wow, I would like to be there right now. So as if it becomes a desire for you, which is practically, if not totally, almost impossible to achieve. And anything that comes to my mind becomes my desire, but my free will is not enough, my power is not enough to achieve that. Or you can take it more realistic questions that we have in life. Still, there is no way for us to achieve them. So then the author says, what am I going to do then? Am I doomed to suffer in this world? So many desires, no power, only a will, which doesn't do much. So then he says, there must be a solution for that. And the solution that he suggested was, since the very beginning, he was saying that if all those problems are happening because I look at the things for me, not from a perspective of belief. Because if I was looking at them from a perspective of belief, I wouldn't observe any of those problems, he says. And then he comes to the problem of, again, free will. And what am I going to do with this free will? And so I'm just going to read it from here and give it to Osman to give the interpretation of the problematic paragraph. So, okay. The solution is this. So before this is from page 227. So, of what use is the faculty of will, worth twopence in relation to my needs, which encompass the world and can only be obtained for millions of dollars? They cannot be bought with it and cannot be gained by it, in which case one has to search for another solution. The solution is this: to forego one's own will and leave matters to the divine will, to give up one's own power and strength, and seeking refuge in the power and strength of Almighty God, to adhere to true reliance on Him. O my sustainer, since the way to be saved is this, I forego my own will in your way, and I give up my egotism. Then your grace may take me by the hand out of compassion for my impotence and weakness, and your mercy may take pity on my need and indigence and be a support for me and open its door for me. And maybe Brother Osman would like to explain us what that means.
You are doing it, John. Keep going.
Since it's, I might say anything, so don't rely on me when it comes to.
Let's go with the Osman.
No, seriously, like just finish summarizing it so we can move on with the other text.
So as far as I remember, because there was some hot discussions about what it means to forego one's own will. So does that mean that I'm not going to choose anything? So stop choosing. So am I going to drink coffee? So not drink coffee? I mean, since it's a choice right in front of me right now, shall I drink it or not drink it? So, well, since I forego my will, I'll just stay still. Does it mean as such? We didn't say that this is how it is, thankfully. So otherwise we wouldn't be able to make the discussion next week, right? Shall I go there or not? So it was more like realizing if my free will has to create anything, or my choice, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm very likely to be wrong, when I choose something, my free will comes into play only for interpretation of what is going on with that. Meaning that, for example, as if the creation is, things are being manifest in front of my eyes. And when I see something, am I going to say that this is from me, this is from Birkan, or am I going to say that no, all these things needs to come from a source. This is neither me nor Birkan nor anything in this existence. So making my choice in the way that the creation is nothing but just a manifestation or an art museum in which the creator is telling about himself to me, and I am invited to hear, to observe and understand. This is the case for the good things, I mean, apparently good things or apparently bad things. It might be a newborn baby, it might be a sickness. So when it's a newborn baby, do I see that, well, this is the product of me and my wife? Do I take it as such? Because the nose resembles me, eyes resembles my wife, so it is ours? Or am I making use of my choice in the sense that this baby with the eyes and the nose and everything is being created by an eternal source because we have no clue whatsoever how the baby was done? Or in the same way, where is the sickness coming from? Was it a random act? So something was working properly by itself. Now it is broken. So does that mean that it just happened haphazardly? Or shall I interpret the sickness in various ways, saying that as it was, when it was working, when the body was working, it was not working by itself. It was being made to work by some source, some eternally knowledgeable one. Otherwise, I mean, I cannot say that it is the particles, it is this or that, or my genes, whatever. And likewise, now that it's not functioning as it used to be, this is also within an order. The sickness itself is also within an order. So this order also requires someone who puts the order into the place. And also, as the let's say the health was a manifestation, the sickness is also a manifestation of different feelings, which also makes me remember or get to know my weakness and his power, my neediness to him, so on and so forth. So this was one aspect that I remember, but please add something that I forgot.
Yeah, like, can I underline something?
Yeah.
It's actually something that I just realized. For my sustenance, since the way to be saved is this, I forego my own will in your way and give up my egotism. So it seems like there are two things there, like I forego my own free will in your way and give up my egotism. But in reality, I think this sentence really like explains what it really means foregoing your own free will. So, which is like technically just giving up your own claim, your own egotism. And what egotism really means, the way that I understand it, is a delusion that you fancy in your mind, which has no reality. For example, thinking that you maintain your own life is nothing but a delusion because you don't maintain your own life. You really truly never have any control of your own life. So what that does, there are always two options that you were referring to. One, the existence and your experiences have some sort of reality, whatever it might be. And the other option has no reality at all. And that's what egotism represents, which, since it's a delusion and it has no real, existence, so it is just an interpretation or assumption that doesn't really look to your own reality. As opposed to the belief, it indicates some sort of truth. And that's where you make your decision or you use your free will. And that's where you give up on your so-called free will, or you give up on your egotism, which means that you stop interpreting the experiences from that delusional perspective. I want to emphasize that delusion, especially because I think it's a good word to really describe egotism, because egotism really has no reality as far as what you can control in your own life.
So, may I add something to that? I agree with Osman that the problem was to use free will in an egotistic way. So I think he pointed out to a good place in that paragraph. So I forego my own will in your way, and I give up my egotism. So my foregoing of my will is giving up egotism, meaning that I had my understanding of my free will, my use of my free will was incorrect. So I am foregoing. I'm not saying that I don't have free will. I'm just foregoing the wrong use of that free will. I think this is also related to two paragraphs back. What it says, what use is the faculty of will, worth 2p in relation to my needs, which encompass the world and can only be obtained for millions of liras. So the desires are unlimited. However, it says that my faculty of will is worth 2p. What is that 2p? What does the 2p represent? In my understanding, it represents the delusional, egotistic use of the free will, in which I say, oh, using my free will, I can do this and that. And what do I get with that? It's worth 2p. However, here, 2 paragraphs later, he says, that's egotistic, I'll give up that. Why is it egotistic? Because I thought that I was the source of those things that I thought I was acquiring with the use of my free will. I will give up that, and I commit to no longer using the free will in such a wrong way, and I will use it in the right way. That's giving up free will. The wrong understanding of the free will.
Jazakallah khair. That was beautiful. Anyone wants to add something? Just to reiterate, it's going to be only a repetition of what Zafer Abi said. Foregoing free will or giving up free will is to give up the wrong understanding perception of free will, which is I control my life with my choices. Instead, a true way of using free will would be my life is being laid in front of me, but to me is the part that is on me is how I'm going to approach or interpret, how am I going to understand it. So instead of feeling like I'm going to make things correct, change things, it should be this way or that way my life is going. And yes, at the end I have a choice of doing this or that, but once the things are being done or is already done, the main focus or job of free will is to how am I going to understand or interpret. Any other comments or?
I might have been missing. I'm missing a lot of discussions, so we might have established certain things. But when I hear I give up my free will, so I'm giving up my ego, I hear I'm rephrasing my ego because I want to feed my ego even more. Guess what? I'm giving up my free will, so I have another source or something else. I just don't see the relationship between giving up free will as of giving up your ego or stabbing your ego. I don't see that at all. That makes sense. Did you say that? That the relationship between your ego and free will?
Yeah, I want to use the egotism rather than giving up the ego. Like giving up the egotism, which means having the claim that you are in control of your own life.
Okay.
That is an egotistical understanding of your own life. When you think deep, down, what you can really control about your own life, you come to a point that's very, very minimal, which here he said, what was the word that they used?
2p?
No, there was another one before. The smallest indivisible particle. Belief gives a document for relying on an infinite power in place of the power of choice, which is like the smallest indivisible particle. Indeed, belief itself is a document. So when you reflect on your own reality and what you can really control in life, you come to a point that there is a very minimal control. But when we live our lives, we act like we are the boss. We are in charge of everything. So that is the egotistical understanding or interpretation of your life. And that's what, at least what I understand, that's what he's talking about here, that one should give up, which means that, like, just face with your reality, that's not who you are. Everything is actually in control of someone else. What is really left to you to acknowledge that reality, that's all it is there. But you have the power of choice to acknowledge it or continue living that egotistical life thinking that you are controlling it. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I'm just behind you. Let's discuss about
Maybe
it. Yes.
if you can give us your understanding of free will or your understanding of the problem of free will,
Yes.
and maybe it will be more beneficial.
So for me, if I cannot control my life, what is the point of living it from the first place? It's becomes enslavement. I need to have some control. Now, if you break it down to little pieces, maybe I'm not in control for these little pieces, but I see my actions and I see consequences. I see it. And so it's difficult for me to accept that. Now, if free will to say that I'm going to give up this free will that I feel like I have, which is the control that I have over my life, I don't think that will let the ego goes. Maybe someone else is in control of that free will, and because of my relationship with that something else that is in control of my free will, I don't know, I feel like I feed my ego up with that. That feels good too.
Maybe
Can I say something?
go ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
No, I was trying to.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to sell it to Emin, but you bought it, so it's better. Go ahead,
I'm
please.
sorry. This remind me of what my daughter said recently. Like, sometimes we clash, and she says, "You make me feel like I'm a slave in this house. I can't do what I want, whatever," and so on. Why? Because she wants to make her own decisions on things that sometimes we think that she shouldn't do those decisions. So she wants to be in control, but we say, okay, you're not in control of everything. So so if you have some control over things and over other things, we have control, and that's not slavery. That's, you are being taken care of. You are under our trust. We are taking care of you. There are things that you don't understand. So, therefore, it's not slavery, but you just focus on what you need to learn to develop your skills and so on. So, similarly, we are in this world, we want to be in total control of everything. But if you say that, then it's actually the exact description of egotistic use of free will. We are not here to control everything in this world that is related to our life, because we don't know everything. We don't know what's good for us. We need to focus on the best way that we can develop our skills, the best way we can prepare ourselves for the everlasting life that we are promised. We have a Rab, an educator that has prepared this, let's say, educational institution that we call the Earth, and we are presented with lessons. Sometimes we like them, sometimes we don't like them. We cannot control them because sometimes we can't judge what's best for us. Frequently we are reminded that we are not in control. He is in control because he's the educator and we are the student. And so one has to focus on the lesson, the message, and use the free will in accordance with why it's given.
Zafer abi, maybe you are in delusion of like thinking that like you have control over Maryam in your house, but in reality, actually, she has the full control.
Yeah, you may be right. I should give up my free will and my egotist ways.
So for me, this I just disagree a little bit with the statement. For me, the Earth is not a school. I don't believe in that. And actually, I'm close to believe that heaven is here and hell is here. And I almost experience it.
I don't think anyone would really disagree with that statement.
Yeah, so I feel it. So to me, this is the school and this is it. For now, at least, I want to get answers for that so I can relate to them more.
Answer to what?
I want answers. Whatever answers that I relate to, I want them now. I don't like the concept of the Earth. The answers are later. The Earth is school. The real thing is later.
But what is your question that you are seeking for answer?
Oh, right now, what I want to understand, basically, first of all, what do we mean here by free will? I'm sure this has been established. And how is it free will if it's control? I just, from every answer I keep hearing, it's free will, but also it's not really free will because it's control. I know this reflects that I'm missing something.
Control? The free will is control?
Yeah.
We have free will, but we cannot control, like we have no control over anything.
And
No. He says your free will is control. But I don't think anyone said that. But I guess it would be a waste of time if you try to understand our own, wordings or something. Maybe you should start with what do you understand with free will and what is the problem of free will for you. Maybe you don't have any problem with your free will. So all these discussions would be a waste of time. But do you have a problem with your free will? And what kind of problem you experience?
So myself, I think I've approached you with this question before. I keep thinking that if we are well taken care of, then the free will is pointless because we could have the will and just leave it from beginning to end. And I gave the example of something as simple as gravity. When I throw this book, it goes down, or when I jump, I go down immediately, and it's not up to me to obey gravity or to not to obey gravity. I am going to fall down because that's what's going to happen. So the struggle I have with free will is the same thing. We are here, and there is a message, and there is a message in life, and later on we will be awarded based on it. Then what's the point of free will? We might as well have been born with this, let's call it God will, and I live it every day until the day I die. And I don't have, it's like I was born because gravity was there from the day I was born until the day I die. So especially when I approach religious beliefs, I really struggle with the concept of free will. And there are other aspects also in our religion, like qada and qadar. And there is very
faith.
Yes, there is very strong hadith that said, رُفِعَتِ الْأَقْلَامُ وَجِفَّتِ الصُّحُفُ, meaning the pens are already withdrawn and they are dry.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever was written for you is written there. And I can't erase it and think behind it. There are so many walls that I am restricted in, so it's hard for me. Now, this might be easy for others, but I'm just saying this is hard for me to think.
So, since you are not much happy with these religious explanations, which I totally understand, let's not try to find a religious answer. Okay? So, then the first question, why do you think you are taken care of? Why do you think, or where did you come with the idea that you have a free will at all? Why do you start with such religious claims if you don't want to get a religious answer?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, why? Obviously, there is something there, right, making you ask these questions.
Yes.
Like, why do you saying, what are you saying? Why are you saying that I have a free will and I don't like it, or I am taking care of it all the time? So, you see what I mean?
Yes.
Why do you think that you are taken care of? Where did you get this idea?
We are Muslims.
You are Muslims?
We are all Muslims. And that's how
I don't even know if I'm not taken care of. I'm just
so what is the problem
stating
then?
the religious behind the idea.
You forget about all these religious, answers or ideas. Like, what is the problem? I'm not saying that there is no problem. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to really understand, like, what is the problem?
What's your problem, bro?
Oh, what is my problem? My problem is I see myself in control of things.
Okay, great.
Okay? I totally see it.
And you believe it, right?
I believe it, and I can act upon it anytime.
Like what?
However, like, I can pick up my phone and put it in my pocket. And if I don't want to pick up my phone and put it in my pocket, I'm not picking up my phone and put it in my pocket.
So you are practicing your free will.
Those are
You're
examples.
practicing your control.
Yes.
Let's not use people, but
Control.
Yes,
Yes.
just control.
things. Yeah.
But I'm not happy with consequences of me taking control.
Like a phone being in your pocket?
That was the easiest one. But there
no,
are
no,
other.
no. What is the difference? Like, so you are saying that you are happy with some consequences,
Yes, and
but not
happy
with all of
other
them.
consequences.
Okay, great.
And then that led me to think this about the question that if I am taken care of, now that's a big jump.
Yes, why you are making this jump?
Yes,
that's the part I don't understand.
Yes, that's the weakness I know inside me, that I need to be well taken care of. That's
another thing, great.
Yes, that's just a weakness thing that let's say I wish I was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually literally was my time.
Because I wish this
because consequences are not great always.
And you have some needs that you cannot sustain, satisfy.
Sure, yes,
right? That's
definitely. I was like, I wish that I'm well taken care of, to the point that I don't have to obey any rules to be taken care of. And that's what immediately my mind jumped to gravity. That I don't think about the gravity at night. Mm-hmm. When I wake up and go, I just know it's there.
But at the same time, you want your ability to control for some things, right?
Definitely, yes. Definitely.
So it's not like you trying to get rid of like your illusion, let's call it as illusion just because you said.
Yes.
Illusion of control. You don't want to get rid of it entirely. But when it comes to some consequences that you don't like, you say, I wish there was a bigger wisdom.
Yes.
Like, I wish there was a creator who can control everything, who would give me exactly what I want.
Yeah, and also the knowledge of myself. I know that I am weak and full of a lot of not good things. So I don't want that person to be in control of making these actions. I just don't trust me. It starts with that. Okay. So I don't want me to be taking care of me.
So then, I'm just trying to understand, like, are you willing to be a slave, like quote unquote, like somebody else should be in control, make the decision for me, and I will just follow the gravity? Is that what you want?
Sure, I would like that. I would take that deal. If I believe in it, I would take it anytime.
But most of the time, I assume, you are happy with making the decision. Like when you choose what school you attended, or I don't know, what you eat or whatever. Like the moments, just think about the moments that you get pleasure. You are happy with them, I assume.
Yes.
Like what I understand, like so far, like you say that like you think that you are actually like in control of your own life, but you are not really happy with it because that brings a lot of burden on you, and you want to be taken care of and not to have that responsibility of practicing that control. Is that the case?
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, just like any of us, he doesn't want to be under ultimate control.
That's true too. There is a part of me enjoys
so
that.
maybe, let's try to reframe the problem. Maybe the problem is not about the control. Maybe the problem is there is a imbalance between what you can do, your knowledge, your power, right, and what you want to do.
Yeah, I like what he said that earlier. Yeah, yes.
This imbalance between what you can do and what you want to do, this is the problem, I guess.
Probably, yes.
And because
yes, that's
I'm just
or
trying
at
to
least
yes,
one of the problems,
yes,
definitely, is the imbalance. And I think I heard it earlier, the imbalance between what you want and what you know, but is just a desire. And they keep adding up, and your power is just your power. It's not adding up. So
I'm just, repeating the same thing again and again, because I think if we can identify the real problem without being lost in all these big claims about being in control of free wills, religious, explanations, just knowing the real problem, it would be, I guess, easier to discuss this. And as far as I see, like from what you said, this is exactly what we have been studying.
Yes.
Because in the text, all author says, nothing more. All he says that he has some needs. He wants to satisfy these needs. He needs some sustenance, and he tries to sustain himself. He tries that, and he says, I always fail. Because there's a big imbalance between what I can do and what I want to. Of course, he's not talking about putting the phone into pocket or not, although to me there's no difference. But I guess he's talking more about some real worries, like I want to be happy.
Yes.
I don't want to get married. If I don't want to get married just because there is a pressure or something. Right? But I don't have any power to do it. My need is endless, almost as big as the entire universe. But my power is just 2 pence, like a little light. And this is what we have discussed so far. Right? So then he was saying, this is the problem. And maybe like he kind of concluding that, and maybe my initial claim that I am control of things is not that true. Maybe it is not true. That was his conclusion. He was saying that I started this journey by claiming that I am in control of things. I want to live the life in such a way, just like you said, right? Because when you first start describing the problem, you said, I think I am in control of things, just like I'm putting my phone into my pocket.
Yes. Exactly.
You started with this assumption. And then the conclusion you reach at the end, when you think about your real worries, not the phone, but real worries. Like day by day, you coming to the end, getting closer to the end. Your brother in other countries, like your father, your mother, whatever, all these worries, and you realize that, maybe I'm not in control as much as I thought.
Yes.
And I guess that was the conclusion. And when author said that I forgo my free will, the way I understand, and also as others describe, he was saying, initially I started with the claim, I can create things. Meaning, I can create the phone in my pocket. How I do that? I move my hand in a certain way, just like, making a magic show. You move your hand in a certain way. And voila, you have an egg in your egg or something. The same way, right? You move your hand in a special way. You say some words, and then you move your phone in your pocket. So the same way, you think at the beginning you thought you were the one who create things in your life, at least. With your decisions, you creating the outcome. And he was saying, maybe this is not the case. This is not the case for us, that we're not creating the outcome. There is something we do. There is something as we call as choosing, like one thing, desiring, wishing, whatever you want to call. There is something you do, but it's not creating the outcome. And I guess what he was saying, highlighting, was this difference. Free will, he was saying, is not the power to create. That's your delusion. He says the free will is something, it is there, because you know that you make some decisions, like you cannot get rid of this. It is always there, but it is not the power to create.
Before going there, since he is making the point of, or describing free will as indivisible particle, I guess it's an important concept to put it as such, because as Aziz was saying, my intuition of saying that I control my life comes from the repetitive fact, that when I want to stand up, I can stand up. It happens very immediately with each other. I want to stand up, and I stand up. As if I am the one that's standing up. None of you will for it. I was having this desire and I just stand up. So, then the question is it really me who is doing that? Then I need to actually start questioning from there, because the reason that we are having this struggle of consequences coming from the idea that I am the one that stands up. In order to challenge the part that looks to the consequences, I guess we need to start from the very beginning. How much of it I am controlling, and we really need to question that. So, as Beckham was putting it in this magical form, but the way that makes more sense to me, or more I'm used to, let me say it this way. So, for example, when I say I am awake standing up, what do I know about standing up? So if if somehow I am not able to stand up one day, and if they take me to a hospital, the doctor would first check my muscles. And I would say, well, there were muscles, assuming that I have no idea, no university education about that. He would check my muscles and he would say, your muscles are okay. I would say, wow, first of all, I didn't know that muscles were doing something, because I don't know how they were working. But they first take me to the guy who knows muscles. And he said, well, go check with the guy who is an expert of bones. Maybe you have some troubles with your bones. They check bones, I say, so apparently there is this aspect which looks to bones, which I have no clue about their shape or structure. I didn't make them. He says, okay, I checked your bones, they seem okay. So he would send us to the neurologist. He would check my brain and all the, nerves. He would say, well, and he will talk about, well, you need to take this and that, because all these are required for your nerves to work, your brain, there's this region, that region. You have no clue about their names or regions. You have never seen them, but they were functioning in your body. And you say, well, they are also part of the job of standing up. He says, yes. So then you say, well, I was just standing up. Nobody talked about all this. Then he said, okay, well, it's also working properly. He then sends you to a psychologist. He says, maybe it's about your psychology. Maybe you are pretending, or you are lazy to stand up.
You are afraid to stand up.
You are afraid to stand up. Then he starts talking about something which is even nearer for you. Now he's talking about your psychology, as if your soul. And he talks about something about you which you have never noticed, never known about. He is talking about some potential fears of you, which you yourself were not aware of. Then still, being all these said, within just required for standing up, which I was not aware of, then I say, no, I am the one that's standing up. Because if you take me to someone, he would say, your body is consisting of particles. And about those particles, the only thing is I put it into my mouth, and I don't know which of those, let's say I eat an orange, which of them goes to, which particles of this orange goes to the nerves, which of them goes to the bones, which of them goes to the muscles, No idea. So then still I am claiming that I own my body, or I am the owner or the doer of standing up. So this is where I would say, well, apparently I neither control my muscles. I don't know how they work. Or let me put it this way. I'm not the one that makes the muscles work. I'm not the one that makes my bones in shape, keeps them in a certain structure. I'm not the one that fires the neurons, this and that. But still, I mean, you see that you do none of that.
Yes, yes.
But it comes to the point, but still, I am the one that wills to stand up. If I get rid of that, then there's no me anymore. Okay, I get rid of, or I forego the muscles and the bones and everything. But if I say there is no free will, then that means there is no me. But when I speak, at least I say me, I, and all the sentences are starting with this, what's it, adjective? For now. Yes, for now. So, but I cannot get rid of that. This is why the author is describing it as indivisible particle. And I can divide my ownership of the bones. I can get rid of the ownership of muscles, but I cannot get rid of the ownership of free will. Because once I get rid of free will, then there's no me. As long as I can say I, or feel, or sense I, there has to be a free will. Now the question becomes, if this is the only thing that I have, how am I going to make use of it? Because it's just misery. It doesn't work. I work in order to fulfill my imagination, my desires. And it's really interesting that the author is taking it even from a different perspective. Because as it was talking about consequences, he's talking about ultimate consequences. He's saying that everywhere is filled with death. The joys are dying. I mean, past is filled with death for sure. Yesterday is gone. But he's just extrapolating. Tomorrow, I didn't live it. But if I happen to live it, it's going to be bad. It's just a matter of time. Tomorrow is going to be bad. I can assume that it's already bad because yesterday is my father's grave. Tomorrow is my grave. This is assured. There is no, do you have any doubt that you will die one day? No doubt about that, right? It's for granted. It's going to happen. So it's another grave right in front of you. This is the ultimate consequence of choice. So what am I going to do then?
One thing that we discussed in the last weeks. On one hand, like you have infinite needs and wants. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you experience the death every single moment. In the sense that like everything is coming to an end. And you are also aware that like one day you are going to be like your bodily existence like in this life will come to an end as well. So you are constantly like going through in this like two contradictory like situation and like experiencing that contradiction all the time. So like that is like man's reality. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
So if this is the misery that we experience, then the question is, if I have the power of choice, get out of it. Like if you can control it, stop your death. Like can you do that? No. Can you provide all the needs and the wants that you have to fulfill those? No. So when you like, that was the, I guess like, reasoning that author talked about at the beginning of the text, and it comes to a point that okay, like I have really no control over in terms of like bringing something into existence or stopping something, preventing something to happen. If that's my reality, but there is something called free will. Like how am I gonna make sense of that? Like it comes to a point that like in his thinking, and there he talks about the indivisible particle, because it is still something that we experience. And in the next part, that what we have like covered so far, then he really talks about where you actually like truly exercise your free will. What is the extent of it? And there we said like it is really in terms of bringing something into existence or preventing something to happen. there you have no control over whatsoever. But anything that you go through in life, you have always two options. And that two options, you are going to either look for the truth in the experience and try to understand the reality of it, or you are going to take the egotistical approach and live with that delusion, thinking that actually you are doing it, you are bringing them into existence, or you are preventing them to happen. Live with that like false claim and live your life accordingly. So you are always free there. There is no restriction or there is no compulsion over your power of choice when it comes to making that choice in between the two.
This is branching quickly. It's getting complicated for me very quickly. The first thing we started, there are many options. We can select them, but we're not in control of the outcome. Right? I think you were discussing that idea. That I'm not I can choose this or that, but hey, you're not in control of creating anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized what he was discussing, then I realized that the bottom line, that I am in control of the outcome. Sure, I'm not in control of the muscle, I'm not in control of the bone, of the brain, but I stood up. So I didn't get involved in the selection, but I created the outcome, which is me standing.
No, that's not what I meant. The thing is,
or at least that's what I read at least.
Yeah. Okay. So I realized that among from beginning to end, if you take this standing up,
yes,
the things that are involved in it, the only part that apparently belongs to me is the choice. The rest of it, I'm not in control of it. Meaning that I'm not.
Oh, so that is the creating it.
Yes.
Oh, so that's aligned with the same idea that I select, so that creating it, I'm not part of it.
Yes. As if,
okay. I read it the other way around.
As if I am being asked, would you like to choose this cookie or that cookie? I just point to one of them, and then the cookie just raises up, comes into my mouth.
Now,
as if,
Yusuf is becoming really delusional because I don't see any cookie.
And the other thing that actually I think is also a problem that at least I have is coping with the consequences, because I think you were saying once the thing happened, either you choose to blame yourself that you were part of that consequences or that result of selecting that choice, or you learn from the experience and you just cope with the fact that you are not creating those consequences anyways. Was that a way of saying what you were saying? Or not? That's how a normal person like me understands it. I understood it as,
I think like sort of, let me say, like I'm not maybe like this further clarification just to make sure that for me to say yes, we are talking about the same thing.
So it's more complicated, I say, for me.
It's not. I don't know. It's not really complicated. It just probably takes more like thinking and reflection.
Okay, sure.
And more clarification with the language, like what we mean, or how we use the terms.
I think it's crucial to really start before discussing really free will. It's very crucial to see how much I have control. Because, of course, forget about all the religious claims, this and that. Just look at yourself. And I feel like I am the one that stands up. I am willing to stand up and I create. It happens. And generally, the word create is, especially if we are coming from a religious background, it is reserved. We are not, we shouldn't be using it. But practically, if God is not there in my world, which is ideally shouldn't be initially, because it is you and your perceptions initially. There's no that. Right? So then I need to check who is the doer of this action, standing there. Just analyze it, cut it into pieces, and see if it is you, or your muscles, or the particles of your body, or the tomato that you eat, whatever. And who is doing that? Or is it your kind? Because if you go to a neurologist, they will come up with an explanation. This is what Mariam was saying. A friend of hers was studying, I guess, psychology or something, and the professor was saying that, of course, it's brain who is making the decisions, because we see the firings in the brain and the action comes out. So certainly, even there's no free will, it is somebody is coming up with a mechanical explanation for what's going on here. And just I need to question if it makes sense or not. Maybe it might very well be true. I need to ask the question. So even I shouldn't take the idea of free will for granted. First, starting from this action is being done. Because previously I was sitting down, now I'm standing up. Something has changed. Something that was not there before is now there. How did this happen? Without just ignoring what I took things for granted so far, put them aside, and see how much of it is under your control. And if it's not under your control, then whose control? Who is controlling or who is making or creating, whichever word you would like to use. All of them means the same in this context now. Who creates this movement? Who creates or who makes this? This is, I guess, the very crucial, important part of the discussion for now. The discussion about free will is becoming secondary.
And I guess even if we all agree that it's not us who has the creative power, then the question is, what is the utility of free will? Right? Why we wish or why we will if we cannot control the outcome or if we cannot create the outcome? That's the utility.
Let's put it this way. If we had the creative power, we wouldn't be sitting here and having this conversation to understand who we are. Because you wouldn't have the questions at all to begin with. You wouldn't have that conflicting situations.
Yes.
I guess, and then it goes back to the beginning of the chapter, 17th word, where he was describing the wisdom in the creation, the wisdom in the life on earth. Why we live this life. So that's the part Brother Zafar was calling as training.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily talking about a future goal or future time point, but learning something at this very moment. So when you take class, yes, there is one aspect which looks at your graduation, right? But there are many other aspects looks for the moment that you learn something at this moment. Right? Yeah. So I guess learning or training shouldn't be taken as only, at least, only for being prepared for something will come in 60 years.
Yeah, learning itself satisfying when you learn something. It can be satisfying.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is satisfying, maybe it is not, but it is certain that there are aspects which leads to the moment. That's one thing. And then another thing, I guess that was really helpful for me, this discussion, because it reminded me the one mistake we always do, starting from preconceived ideas. If there is some guy who controls everything, if there is such a being, if I am in the control, starting with some assumptions that we never thought about, never analyzed, discussed, question. Once we do that, once we start with conclusions of others, if there is a God, what God? Where did God come from? We were just talking about if I can control my future or not, for instance. Yes. So all these assumptions that we start with, I guess, makes such discussions much harder. Because at the beginning, you're starting with the idea that you are being sustained, but then you're trying to come to the conclusion that you are not sustained, there's an obvious contradiction there. You have to let go one of them at least. And to me, what we discussed so far, the problem is not about the utility of the free will or how to get rid of the free will or so on. The problem is about our perception of our own life. As soon as we think that we are in control or we are the creator of the outcomes, just this belief itself causes us anxiety. Just this belief itself, like without even going further and seeing if it fits to our previous religious thoughts or not.
Yes.
Just this belief itself that I am in control of things, my future, it gives us anxiety. And this anxiety is the thing that we're really trying to get rid of. If this is the case, I guess solution is so easy, as author was suggesting. Just realize that you are not in control of the things. And that's the solution he was saying. Again, it's another question then what is the point of this life? It's completely other question. Another question. I believe we discussed part of it in previous weeks, maybe.
Also, there's a question. If I'm not in control of things, then what is use of free will?
Mm-hmm.
And if it is not for controlling things, then what is it for?
Yes, these are all different questions, but I guess at the beginning, at the starting point, when we were referring to a problem that we want to solve or that we want to get rid of, at least to me, maybe there's something else for other people, but to me, it is this anxiety, being afraid of the consequences, outcomes that I create. I think that's the real problem for me.
No, that's also touches a spot in you too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
And the author's solution was just check your reality. Just check, examine it. Is it really you creating this? Maybe it is not. When he says, I forego my free will, in your way, the way I understand, he was saying, I accept that it's not me who creating this. I accept that it is you.
Is such thing achievable? I mean, that sounds really delicious. You just say, I am not in control of anything. It sounds like a perfect solution. I agree, totally. That sounds like a perfect solution that to get rid of that anxiety, simply I'm not in charge of anything. Why am I afraid of these consequences? I don't control.
This is only true.
Can I truly believe?
But this is only true if this anxiety you experience is waste of time or has no utility itself. If this is the case, because all your emotions or your anxiety, including your anxieties, they also have some wisdom in them.
Oh,
according to yes.
Okay, so they are inside now.
Yeah, I mean when you look from in the bigger picture,
they are involved in this.
Exactly. At least this is the claim of the author in previous weeks that we discussed in previous chapters.
Yeah.
And so on.
And I guess since my free will is, let's say I'm going to make a choice now. So whatever mindset that I gained, I'm going to make a choice next. So how shall I do the choice now? Let's assume somehow if I manage to forego my free will, how am I going to make my next choice? What does it mean to make a new choice with this new mindset? What does it mean? So I will just give it a try. And if it's wrong, just correct me.
Mm-hmm.
Then, let's say, am I going to choose X or Y? Let's say I'm investigating it, and I have for myself, I have a desire or build a future imagination for choosing Y. But yet, when I am choosing Y, I am also aware of the fact that I don't know how Y will end up.
Could we use A and B instead of X and Y, because Y also sounds like Y, as in question?
So, A, B.
Yes. Or something.
Which one is Y? Because I am choosing Y. Anyways, let's make it.
In last week you said Ayşe and Sibel.
No, please. Not,
Don't take it there.
don't go this
You don't know what
way.
happened later on. Anyways. So let's say I'm choosing A or B, and let's say I'm choosing to start a food truck or work at UPenn. Okay? And let's say I have good reasons to open up my food truck.
Or butcher shop. Or butcher shop.
Let's go with the food truck. More realistic. Anyway. But when I'm making this choice, am I thinking that I have control over my life and I'm going to open up this shop and then I'm going to do this and that and I'm going to earn a lot of money, become filthy rich, and it's all going to be by my choice? Or am I saying that by making this choice, I'm not the creator of anything after my choice, but I have a desire. So by making this choice, I am asking from the one that is going to create, saying that I would like to, let's say, I'm keeping the example simple, I would like to be rich, let's assume. This is why I am choosing food truck instead of food bank. But I'm not the creator of the money or this and that. I'm aware of that. And with the knowledge that you have given me so far, it looks like food truck is a better option. And I'm choosing that. Once I do the choice, I say that the rest is yours. I don't know if you are going to make me rich or poor because of this choice. For me, it was to choose. Choose in the sense that I am now choosing as sort of a supplication, sort of asking. Now I'm asking from my creator to make me rich from food truck. But after that is his, not mine. If he wants to make me rich, he will make me rich. He's going to make things all good in my way. Or he's going to make me poor. He would say that, no, I'm not making you gain money out of that. I would say, oh, okay, both are fine, because now it's not consequence of my choice in this sense. Because my choice was if I take it as a supplication. But if I take it the other way around, then it becomes the burden, the outcome becomes mine. Consequence is mine, because I was thinking that I am going to become rich. This was my idea. And as a consequence of this idea, I am now suffering if I am not rich. So the consequence comes from my initial position, my mindset.
Yes.
But but still, in both cases, we didn't discard making the choice. But initially, or in one of the cases, making the choice was as if I'm going to create the result. I am going to become rich. In the second case, it was simply, I am asking, another way of asking. You might open your hands and say that, oh God, make me rich. Or you might choose to open up a food truck, which is another way to ask from God, if you are conscious, make me rich. So still you are choosing, but your perception of choice is different. This is why end results shouldn't be that bitter. Maybe not bitter at all, but this is a very an ideal case. Yes. If you end up being poor, let's say, if you have this other mindset, you would say, well, I made the choice. I asked for him. He chose not to give me, and I'm okay with his response. It's not consequence of my choice now. It is what he willed my perception would be, and this wouldn't be bitter for me. Because he doesn't need to give me. He doesn't have to make me rich anyways. So why should I be having any hard feeling about him not giving me money? You don't have to anyways. I asked and he did.
Just as a side note, but you still have the desire to be rich. It is still there. So we shouldn't, just for the sake of simplicity, we shouldn't discard this part of the reality. I still want to be rich. I still suffer when I don't get rich. And they are still there. Not to discuss it now, but just as a side note, to make the things complete.
Okay, let's take it one step further. Why do you want to be rich?
That's the reason I said not to discuss for now, but
it is, I think, directly related with the subject. Maybe that is the, initial, start point to understand what we control, what we don't control, what's free will, how we practice it. But all these things that we have talked about really boils down to the things that we talked at the beginning. We have endless needs and you want to be happy in this life. And for example, taking the example of making more money, in today's society, money can buy anything. So, which means money can buy happiness for you. That is the delusion that's there. So, when it comes to, or when you go back to your really true self, this is really what you're after. You are not really after money, but you are after your happiness that you think that you are going to gain through the money. And there, exercising your free will and understanding your reality versus choosing the egotistical approach, which again has no basis, makes a big difference for your life in terms of your happiness. So making more money or less money becomes completely irrelevant, or working in the UPenn or working as a butcher becomes completely irrelevant. If you don't know how to be happy in UPenn, you will never be happy when you work in the butcher shop, because this is where you really truly exercise your free will, because it determines your approach, how you deal with the things, no matter where you are, and your perception of the outcome. Make sense?
Yes.
In other words, in a way, you stop looking for the satisfaction in the external things. You look more internally and see how exercising that power of choice really makes a difference for your own immediate life. Immediate actually is hard, because that's where the satisfaction, anxieties and all that emotions that you feel.
Another comments, points, maybe from our online participants? Any remarks, questions, objections? I don't like when people agree.
I disagree. I don't remember if you read the last part of it. Did you read the last part?
Probably no. Maybe we should read it and since, yes.
Yeah. And, if no further comments, we can continue with the next part. Just reading this part.
So, just before we continue,
go ahead, please, yes,
so the satisfaction this is really satisfying just to hear overall the options. This is really satisfying to hear, having these options and how to cope with consequences. But if everything is dying, isn't satisfaction a part of that? Because I have places in my life that I was very satisfied of what I got, but it just dies.
It is, yes, it is part of that.
And a moment like when Yusuf was speaking and we were discussing this, I felt, oh, this is good. It's a good way to cope with the consequences.
For a couple seconds.
But give me 15 more seconds. These things just die. It's like that. I'm just saying.
So that's
people agree.
So what's the question? I think I didn't
The question is, then there is no solution for my happiness, because the next thing I find that I think is the solution for my happiness is always the same, always around the same level. Personally, I'm not happy. That's what it is. Like maybe I get a little spikes here and there, but I'm just not happy. Because satisfaction, joy, life events.
Okay, I think because of the way we are wired and how this whole universe is set up,
okay,
there is really no satisfaction, or you can never find the happiness within the creation itself. If you are looking for within the creation.
Can you elaborate what you mean with within the creation?
Actually, we already talked about it. Like, Yusuf thinks that he's going to be happier if he has a butcher shop or he has a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, like, he relates that with, like, his happiness is dependent on the food truck.
No, I'm getting
so, like,
from you what you said to him, that if you don't learn how to be happy in your pen, the food truck will
so it's a causal relationship. Like, believe me, like, as soon as, like, he, like, quits the job, like, at UPenn and gets a food truck and starts working, like, 5 in the morning to get ready, he's gonna start complaining about the food truck, and he's gonna dream about the writing, like, articles in papers in UPenn. So this is what in very practical terms, like, this is what I mean, looking for the happiness within the things.
I believe you, because there were points in my life I was like, if I have this, I am happy. All my happiness. I don't even understand why people who have that are not happy. That was my feeling. How can you be not happy? And then the second I had it, it took only a week at max, by the way. Like, I totally believe you. Like, I'm in line there.
So that's the way we are wired to search for the source of that happiness. That happiness is, in a way, like, the way that I understand it, is like you taste it for a short period of time. It's given to you. So, like, as a motivation for you to search for the source of it.
And also, as you were
I think.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I think there is a difference between these two phrases. One, I seek happiness. Two, I am acknowledging that I am in need of happiness. So the first one, when we say, I want happiness, I want this, I want that, I think this falls under the category of the first part of this paragraph, like humans, one's own will. You can desire or want all day long, but even if you reach your goal or what you have in mind, like you guys alluded to it earlier, you will lose it no matter what. So maybe it helps to think of this concept of happiness at the level of neediness. Because when I confirm or acknowledge that I'm in need of happiness, again, the emphasis here is the word need. I am in need of happiness, then that is going to be my motivation to find or seek a potential absolute source, which may have capacity to satisfy my needs. But if I keep focusing on my, again, the emphasis on the word my desires, it doesn't really help at all, at least not for me. It's a kind of circular or vicious cycle. I want things I cannot have. And even if I have it, I will lose it. So there's no solution to that. But if I direct my thinking into this, second half of this paragraph we just started maybe about half an hour ago, then it might help in reaching or it might help understanding what's really being discussed in this part of the text. And again, I keep repeating myself, but in a nutshell, I think we might want to talk around the concept of neediness instead of desiring happiness or some other thing.
So, as a practical example, then, we may say that I'm starting a food truck business because it will give me happiness. Right? This could be one perception. Another alternative would be I'm starting a food truck business because I'm in need of happiness, and I'm searching happiness through this food truck. Once food truck sets, I guess this is the part we will discuss next. Once we start this food truck business and see that it's not the source of the happiness, then we go and look for another source. We try another source. But the emphasis there, as Amin nicely put it, we are in need of happiness. I guess that's the crux. That's what is important. And what we try to do in our lives is try to fulfill these needs through a kind of business, through books we read, through, I don't know, the people we get in contact. But what is constant is we are in need of happiness, or we are in need of something. Satisfaction, peace. It may change from person to person, I don't know. But we are in need of things. And I guess this is where, or this is how Quranic teaching summarize this in a very elegant way by saying the hearts are not satisfied with transient things. The only thing that will satisfy human heart is the love of everlasting, or everlasting love. So this is our nature, I guess. Very well summarized, right? We try to fulfill our needs through all these choices we make. But as you were just saying, even if we get the satisfaction for a moment, it will decay. It will go away. It will never fulfill the need. And through this, you will search for the eternal one. Because you will realize that nothing is eternal.
Yes, you were saying, because Aziz was saying that heaven and hell should be here. We shouldn't be talking about consequences after death. But this is generally our understanding of eternal life. But if we now reformulate it as Birkan was saying, momentarily I leave some joy. Even when we talk about such a concept, it just consoles us for 10, 15 seconds. But then we are turning back to our factory settings and still take the burden of free will, this and that, and life becomes struggling. So if I can get, let's say, the approach the author is suggesting in here, which is a consequence of looking at free will through the lens of belief, then this is taking burdens from my shoulders from now on till eternity, or from now on for the rest of the time. If I can really get what he is saying, or live, forget about get, if I can live or experience what he is saying, apparently then I am entering into an eternal happiness right then. The paradise starts right then. Then I'm not really living the life that I used to live before. Because my life previously was, if I struggle, I can succeed. If I work hard, then I'm going to achieve. It is me or my endeavor which creates. But now, if his idea is adaptable, because for at least for 15 seconds we were able to enjoy it, right? So if it's adaptable, meaning that if I can learn it, then learning or feeling, living, experiencing it means right at that spot starts this happiness, eternal happiness starts right there. It's not like this life becomes your eternal life starts right now. This is why as humans, we are interested in eternal happiness, always. It's part of us. We want to elongate this 15 seconds to eternity, because we will not be okay if this new idea is going to help me for 5 years. If I tell you, for example, take this idea, you're going to be happy for 5 years, then you're bound to ask, what will happen after 5 years then? 5 years is not enough. Give me something which can help me forever. So this idea of having happiness forever is always with us. There's no escape from that. This is like hardwired human concept. But it should start right now instead of starting after death. I want to come up with a solution to my problem, this problem, right now, and it should be valid forever. Not even until my death. Because what will happen after I die? I don't want to die. I don't want to go to non-existence. I don't want to become nothing. So,
I suggest not to start the next section. We can conclude with final remarks if you have any. If you don't, we can read. We didn't read still. Well, let's read and then close.
Concluding remarks.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is from page 227, the last paragraph. Yes, whoever finds the boundless sea of mercy surely does not rely on his own mirage-like will and choice, which is like a mirage. He does not abandon mercy and have recourse to his will. Alas, we have been deceived. We supposed the life of this world to be constant, and so have lost everything. Yes, this passing life is but a sleep. It passes like a dream. This frail life flies like the wind and departs. Arrogant man who relies on himself and supposes he will live forever is doomed to die. He passes swiftly. The world, too, man's house, tumbles into the darkness of non-existence. Hopes do not last, while pains endure in the spirit. Since the reality is this, come, O my wretched soul, which yearns for life, is enamored of the world and afflicted with endless hopes and pains, awake and come to your senses. As the firefly relies on its own minuscule light and remains in the boundless darkness of the night, and since it does not rely on itself, the honey bee finds the sun of daytime and observes all its friends, the flowers, gilded with sunlight. If you rely on yourself and your being and your ego, you will resemble the firefly. Whereas, if you sacrifice your transient being in the way of the Creator who gave it to you, you will find an unending light of existence. So sacrifice it, for your being is a trust given to you for safekeeping. Moreover, it is his property, and it is he who bestowed it. So do not scorn it. Sacrifice it unhesitatingly. Sacrifice it so that it will be made permanent. For negation of a negation is an affirmation. That is, if non-being is not, there is being. If non-being is negated, existence comes into being. The all-generous Creator buys his own property from you and gives you the high price of paradise in return. Also, he looks after that property well for you and increases its value. And he will return it to you in both enduring and perfect form. O my soul, do not delay. Do this trade which is profitable in 5 respects, and be saved from 5 losses. Make a 5-fold profit all at once.
This reminded me the story of Abraham. I guess this is what we were discussing, that he accepts to sacrifice his son, but at the end, his son is given back to him. The only thing he need to do was accepting it, like realizing that he was not the owner. Acknowledge it, yes. And his son was with him at the end, even maybe closer to him at the end. So just like he says here, when he says sacrifice your transient being, obviously he's not saying commit a suicide.
Suicide bomb.
Yes, commit a suicide and become a permanent being. No, I don't think that's what he suggests. He says acknowledge the fact that even your transient being belongs to him. Sacrifice it. Forgo your claims of ownership. But once you do it truly, once you really take your knife and ready to cut, then you will start experiencing paradise, he says.
And this one also, in here, he is interpreting another verse which talks about, indeed, God buys the self of the believers as a response, or trades the self of the believers in return to paradise. And he's saying, what does that mean? How do I sell myself to him so that he's going to give me paradise? And whatever he told so far is an interpretation of that. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم